Welcome to Classical Chats. I'm Tiffany. Today I'm very excited to be talking to one of our grants recipients, Jake Shur. Thanks to your generous support for our previous fundraiser, you have helped us launch Together with Classical Grants, which aims to provide support for people to pay for lessons, for instruments, and or fund their projects in music. And Jake was one of our grants recipients. I really admired the ambition behind his project called Balance World Music. It's not only a virtual project to bring people together through music and play music together, but it also aims to support music education for the individual musicians. And this is something that when I found Together with Classical, I really wanted to be able to not only support musicians, but also support music education, while of course fostering a community, like through Classical Chats, of everyone who loves classical music and really just having an equal voice for everyone from amateurs to professionals. So, we're going to get to know a little bit about Jake and learn about how he created this initiative. If you would like to support our current fundraiser for the second season of Together with Classical Grants, the link is in the description, and thank you very much for your support. Welcome to Classical Chats. I'm very excited to hear how you've been doing because as one of our grants recipients, I'm very excited to kind of get to know your story and how you're doing with your current project. So let's start from the very beginning, Jake. How did your journey with classical music begin?
Yes, the beginning. I started through my public school system. So I was in third grade, and I started playing viola then. So that's how I began my classical music journey. And I was very lucky. I had lots of good teachers. I had youth orchestras that I could play in. So I was in the Philadelphia area. So I had a very rich musical experience as a during childhood, um, and then that led to, of course, summer festivals where I played chamber music, and it eventually led to where I am now, which is I'm studying music in grad school now. So I'd say the whole journey so far has been about 17 years. So
Wow.
far, yeah.
And did you come from a music family?
No, I didn't. I'm the
Oh,
only musician in my family. But I
that's cool.
guess,
Me too.
yeah. Oh, you too? Yeah, I guess
Yeah, I didn't come from a music family.
you form your own music family as the journey goes on, I suppose.
Yeah.
But
Do you remember what? I mean, particularly with an instrument, a string instrument like viola, you're
mm,
constantly with other people, so you can really create your own musical family. Do you remember what drew you to the viola?
what drew me to the viola? Um, I share this story all the time. I really don't know, but I think it was the size of it because I specifically remember my teacher. They had four instruments in the front of the room, and then they said, "Oh, Jake, which one do you want to play?" And I said viola. I think because it wasn't too small and it wasn't too big. It was it was
Perfect.
just
The
the
medium
perfect
size.
size. Yeah, like the medium size one. So I said that they gave me a viola, and then that led to lots of other things. So do you
That's amazing.
what drew you to piano? I'm curious.
Uh, just because I liked to play with my fingers. I had a toy piano when I was a kid,
Okay.
and I just was obsessed with it, even though it had only 4 keys. So my
Yeah.
parents thought maybe 88 would be more exciting, and so that's kind of how it began. But
Yeah.
I also didn't come from a music family, just like you. So
Okay.
I guess in
Cool.
a way, you are really creating a musical family through your project, right? With your Balance World music. Do you want to talk us through how
Yes.
you even had that concept?
So it is sort of like a music family a little bit, and it's mostly for students because now I'm going into teaching. I want to teach the violin,
Hmm,
and
not viola.
my not viola. I mean, I of course want to do both, but right now I'm studying here to become a violin teacher.
Ah.
So uh, it started because I actually had a break from classical music.
Hmm.
Um,
What
yeah, I
happened?
actually what happened? So after my first year of grad school, this is kind of a sour note, but I was feeling very burnt out. I was, um, yeah, both musically burnt out, personally burnt out, just wanted to step away from classical music for a little bit. So what I ended up doing was I took a leave of absence from school, and that led to me working in Japan as an English teacher for 2 years.
Ah,
So
that's really cool. Now I
yeah,
understand where
so
the international flavor of your project comes from. You traveled.
I did. I traveled and I went there in 2019.
Mm,
So, and then I just got back here this fall. So, yeah, just about 2 years. And yeah, when I was there, that is when um, I had a lot of time to like reflect on being away from classical music. So
mhm,
I thought about my whole life, and I really thought about what I got out of it specifically. So that sort of led to me realizing that what I got out of it, it all came from playing with other people. That was the part that I enjoyed the most. Um, and playing, collaborating, that was like my favorite thing that I love to do. And that I think also shaped a lot of who I am now. Like people skills. I
mhm,
learned so much from all of these music collaborations that I was reflecting on. So that was great. And then it eventually led to me wanting to put together a project that can give the same thing to students pretty much. All of the stuff that I benefited from playing with others, I thought, well, there must be a way that we can maybe pair schools together and have them do like virtual collaborations of some sort. So,
mm,
um, yeah, this was an idea that I had. And then this is when, together with classical comes in because you were willing to give the grant, which is funding this project now, which I guess I can talk about now, which is there's a school, there's an international school in Tokyo, and then there's a public school in New York, and they're making a virtual duet as we speak. They are working on it now, and just very thankful that your organization could help out. Very helpful. And they're playing Ode to Joy. So they're going to do an Ode to Joy
oh,
collaboration, which is,
that's so nice.
yeah, really exciting. Um, and the way it works is the school in Tokyo, those students are going to play the melody. So they're learning the melody, they're going to record the melody, and then it's going to be sent to the other school in New York, and then
Mm,
the school in New York is going to listen to the melody and they're going to record the harmony. Once that happens, then what
mm,
we do is we take both recordings, melody and harmony, and we get the audio mixed together, and then the final result is the final video gets sent to the students' families so they can um, see their kids collaborating with other people, and yeah, hopefully it's very beneficial for the students. And again, thank you so much for making it
no.
happen.
Well, I was very excited to hear something like this because I really loved traveling and experiencing different cultures, and I really like that exchange of different ideas and different ways of playing music. And so I was intrigued by your project. So I think you also mentioned that you were funding some virtual masterclasses. Is that also part of your
Yeah.
project of how the funds are used?
Yes, there was a virtual masterclass that was held, and that was to give back to some students who have already participated. And so we had some older students who we're violinists, so what
Right, the
we do with the
Saraband
funds there.
project, right? Was it
Yeah.
a Saraband? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Um, there was the Saraband project where people played a Bach Saraband together virtually. There was also a Mozart project
Yeah, I
where,
saw that.
um, yep, where we played a quartet, but it was more than four people. We kind of just
Yeah. You
um,
expanded.
made it. Yeah, we expanded it. So what we did was we held a virtual masterclass thanks to the funds that we received from you. The rest of the funds, how it works is we want to pay the teachers who are um, teaching the music. That's a
Hmm. Yeah.
big part of what we want to do. So like the international school in Tokyo, we want to pay that teacher, pay the school in New York, and then we're also going to use the money um, to get a professional mix of the audio as well.
Yeah.
So
It's
yes.
great. I like that it combines
Oh,
both the cultural
thanks.
exchange and the educational aspect, which is something that, together with
Yeah.
classical, my hope is for us to be able to fund musicians and education at the same time. And so I think this
Yeah.
is a great project to support. So very happy to see. I think recently you had, I think I saw on your Instagram, 5 time zones and 3 continents. Is that part of the Ode to Joy project, or is that and something
Mhm.
else?
Oh, that is something else.
Ah,
That was the masterclass I just talked about.
okay.
Because literally how it worked at first was me just offering this service to whoever wanted to participate, pretty much.
Hmm.
So that five time zones were people just from all over the world. There was someone in Louisiana, someone in New York, Berlin. Um, so we all came together at different. It was different times of day for all of us, and um, it worked. It was enjoyable. So hopefully we can do more of that.
Yeah,
That
it's
was
great.
really fun to do.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's the nice thing about having this technology is to be able to
I know.
share this simultaneously in the same time
Yeah,
experience somehow and
yeah,
experience music together.
yeah,
It's great.
definitely.
So I
Yes.
gotta ask, we kind of skipped
Okay.
over this, but somehow when you were studying the viola, actually, you went and
Yeah.
switched to violin. Was there
Yeah.
a story there that I missed somehow in that transition, or was it just kind of natural
Yeah.
transition?
Um, that's a good question. I'd say it was more natural. During my undergrad, I was a viola performance major, and then um, decided that I wanted to teach the violin. So that's what I originally went to grad school for,
Hmm.
was to teach the violin. I mean, nothing against the viola. Of course, I love the viola. It's my first. It has my heart, so to speak. But I guess the violin is. I guess it's a more popular instrument, especially for students to learn. So definitely in a lot of schools they teach the violin. Um, so yes, I'm still learning how to do that. There are two different instruments, of course, but um, that's kind of what I'm doing now. And yes, hopefully graduating this year. So
Ah, wow, that's
yeah,
soon. Congrats.
yes. Thank you.
Do you
Hopefully,
know do you know what is next? I mean, you have the
yeah.
um, Balance World Music Project and you want to be a teacher. Do you
Mhm.
have any sense of
Yeah.
where you want to lead into in the future?
Yeah, in the future, um, I'm hoping to definitely be a violin teacher. That's that is, I guess, my first form of career.
In
Um,
the US,
but
or would you go back to Japan or something like that?
um, I would say I'm open to many things, but hopefully, hopefully the U.S. This area.
Yeah.
Um, but then, of course, the Balance World Music is what's next for that is yeah, to hopefully pair more schools together. I sort of see that as a um, like a virtual musical exchange program. That's kind of what it is. So the hope is that we can find teachers who want to participate. The hope is that we can find funding to fund the projects, and I'm just very much I'm very passionate about trying to make that um, happen because I think it can really benefit those involved, specifically the students involved. Sort of to circle back what we said before, or what I said before about what I got out of music. Um, just like I think this sort of project can really be used to teach kids to be um, like excellent global citizens. That's sort of what is in mind for that. Because I know for me, uh, just even the concept of emotions was something that I could use music as a vessel towards, or put my emotions into music. And then not only that, but then hear people play and they're expressing their emotions, and um, that sort of emotional awareness is something that I learned from playing with others. So hopefully I can um, provide that for the students doing these projects. And I'm very curious, do you find that music is therapeutic for you? Like you, when you play piano, are you, how are you incorporating your emotions when you perform or practice or play?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's there are two sides to it. There is, of course, the therapeutic side, and sometimes it is wonderful to have the instruments to kind of express and work through certain things in my brain or in my emotions and feelings. But then there's the other side because I am a professional musician and I cannot dwell on those feelings and just indulge in that too much, or else I won't sound good. So I think it's a balance between being subjective and having those moments and more personal, intimate moments, but then also being more objective and really surfacing the piano music and the music itself rather than putting myself and my feelings in the
Mm-hmm.
forefront. Because I think at the end of the day, I want to make beautiful music. I think that's the most important aspect, not so much that I want to express this certain feeling of mine in the music. If that makes sense, it's more about the grander goal of the music rather than just one more ecocentric
Mm-hmm.
approach. Not that there's anything wrong with
Interesting.
expressing
Yeah.
ideas and feelings into music, but I think yeah, I think it's opens up
Yeah.
more if it's more about
Yes.
the potential of the music rather than just
Right.
limited to my oneself. So anyway, that was a really long
Right.
spiel.
Right.
But something must have happened, you know,
I
while
get
you
it.
were in Japan to really go back to music because you decided to leave
Mm.
music. So do you remember if there were certain moments?
Yep.
I know you talked about reflecting and kind of thinking what you got out of music, but was it during some experience with music? 'Cause something must have drawn you back and to really develop
Yeah.
something new, so passionate within the music world. So
I think I always knew I was going to come back at some point.
mm,
Um, and I'd say I went to Japan as a temporary thing to do. Um, like I brought my instrument with me. I was attempting to practice when I could. Um, and even though I wasn't teaching music or playing music much, I always knew that that is truly what I want to do
mm,
in the long scheme of things. So I remember, yeah, I remember actually seeing a lot of musicians in Japan and being almost jealous of them that they're going to rehearsal or that they're going to a lesson wherever they're going. But I remember anytime I saw someone with a case with their instrument, it was a feeling of almost nostalgia, I guess, that I can't wait to go back and be back into the classical music world, I guess you could say. So, um, yes, it was an amazing experience to be there, but um, I think who I am personally is someone who is very much a music fanatic, a classical music um, lover, I guess. So that's definitely how I want to spend my life, the rest of my life.
Mm.
So
That's beautiful that you
definitely. And
never
what you were
left.
saying,
That you never. It wasn't like you left your viola violin and just went and switched course. You really still had a place for the instrument, even though you were doing something else.
right, right, and that whole because I had it. That's why I mentioned it was sort of like therapy in a weird
Mm.
way. It was I had it with me, and I know I will always have it with me. Therefore, if I can give that to someone else where they know that they will always have their instrument with them, um, that I think is very meaningful to give them that gift. So yes, it's very interesting what you were saying about how you view the music as the whole purpose of music rather than just your own self emotions being put into it.
Yeah.
So um, yes, I think that ties into the question of like what is the role of music, what is the role of art, which is a whole nother side debate. um, Maybe not now,
Well,
but
I don't know. Feel free to
yes.
comment if you have a short answer to that. I think it's always a interesting dialectic, how much of the person should be in the music, and is it bad if it's a bit more distant,
Yeah.
or does it actually open up a whole new world of possibilities for different kinds of perspectives to experience the music? And I think that's great that balanced world music has this exchange of ideas and different cultures, different countries coming together to form one whole, essentially, right? So it's not just focused on one
Yeah,
specific perspective, and I think that's really interesting.
definitely.
Actually, you said that you always had your instrument with you. Were there certain composers or music that you uh, were always going back to during that period?
There were. It was a lot of
Which
Bach.
is funny because I hear Bach in the
Uh,
practice room right now.
yes.
I hear
Oh, do you
Borge
the
English
piano?
Suite. Right? I can hear.
Oh wow, that's yeah. It's here.
So it's
I could
perfect.
ask
It's
them.
perfect that you also
It
are drawn to
is.
Bach. It'd be funny
Yeah.
if you mentioned something else. Now it coincides perfectly with
Yeah.
the background of your environment. So Bach.
Totally does. Yes. I guess Bach's always been around in my
Mm.
life. I guess it's sort of an analogy. This moment compared to my whole life, I always played Bach.
Any specific pieces?
um,
Like a particular suite or something?
yeah, so definitely the cello suites arranged for
Ah.
viola. And to answer your question of um, when I was in Japan, I really enjoyed the
Mm.
sarabands. Those were the pieces that I played a lot, and specifically, I would say the sixth saraband
Mm.
from the sixth cello suite, because the others are quite dark and quite minor sounding. But then the saraband number six is in D major, and I think the emotion that I get from it is a sense of hope, I would
Mm.
say. So that was comforting to play, especially during um, these past few years to play something that, for me, I interpreted it as um, being very hopeful sounding and also having a lot of joy in it. So that is definitely the piece that I stuck with. Um, but yeah, I I have always loved Bach. It has been around. Um, Violas, we have to steal the Bach cello suites because
I didn't know that
um,
actually. I've only heard them on the cello, but I didn't know that. I mean, it makes sense, but I've actually never heard the viola transcription of the cello suites.
oh,
Is that actually the same piece that you recommended?
it is. That's the
Ah,
movement.
perfect. Well, I
Yep.
look forward to listening to it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's it's been like the theme song of my
Ah,
life, I guess, the last few
that's
years.
nice.
So, yes. And yeah, I'm very very happy that now um I'm back and I can actually play Bach and be around people who are playing Bach and talk about Bach with you and others. So, um I guess it's sort of this musical family that we were talking
Yeah,
about. um just we have this amazing composer and we can all sort of bond because of the music that they made that still exists
yeah.
today.
And I think that's
So
so great about
yes.
classical music is that
Yeah.
opportunity and that potential to really open up and be timeless to different people at
Yeah.
different times in their lives, and to still connect with the music and be together with classical music. So yeah, I
Right.
think that's great. So congratulations
Totally.
on the project that you're embarking on, and I hope I get to see more of the Ode to Joy and what's to come in the future.
Yeah. Yes, I thank you so much for having me. uh yes, thank you for being you. You're totally inspiring. So, um, definitely great to connect. And yes, I'm very thankful
Yeah.
that this
Yeah,
happened.
well, I'm glad I met you through this fundraiser, and yeah, I'm
Yeah.
happy to support. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed hearing about Jake's story of how he came back to classical music and came up with his project Balance World Music. If you would like to help us continue be able to support people like Jake and others who are very passionate about classical music and want to pursue and have a little bit of support to pay for their lessons or instruments or fund their projects, please consider donating to our current fundraiser for the second launch of Together with Classical grants. Links will be in the description or on our website, togetherwithclassical.org. Thank you very, very much on behalf of everyone who has benefited from your generosity for the previous fundraiser and also for the future recipients. Also, please feel free to check out other episodes of Classical Chats for more stories about classical music from people from different walks of life. In the meantime, I look forward to the next chat.